Command Point is sponsored by Crossfire Games. Use code CommandPoint25 at checkout to get 5% off your next purchase. Link in the description.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Command Point. I believe this is the 69th. This might be the 69th episode of the Command Point podcast. And I am joined today by Ontario World's representative, Voyan Jarek. Voyan, how's it going?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on. I didn't realize if this is episode 69. What a fun coincidence.
Yeah, I'm actually certain that it is because the last episode I thought it might be 69 and I checked and it was 68. So this is episode 69, Voyan. Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very, very happy to be here.
Yeah. So you were so I guess to introduce you a little bit to the listeners. You're one of the top players in Ontario, one of the I guess top players in Canada. You represented Canada at the World Championships last year, and you did quite well. You ran Warp Coven. What did you? 7-3, 8-2.
I think it was 7-3 from what I remember.
Yeah, you finished in the top 20 or 15, I think, at Worlds. I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. Top
Nice.
16 for sure. I think it was 13th overall, but who's counting, right?
Who's
So,
counting? Yeah. It's funny because originally when I became familiar with you, this was I think last year, it was last edition, regardless. Um, you were actually like an OG diehard Pathfinder player, and then the Pathfinders, the edition ended, and Pathfinders were pretty bad on release, and you were playing Warp Covenant Worlds, and then you were playing a little bit of Goremongers last month, and then we got the data slate, and Pathfinders all of a sudden getting a bunch of buffs, and they're kind of, I don't know if they're like back to dominant status, but they're actually like a solid team now, and you're playing them again, and we had the pleasure of playing, and it was that was one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you about this. So I mean, how has the transition been? I guess getting back into the Pathfinder lifestyle.
I mean, it was to I don't know how far back we want to go here, but I mean, last edition was fantastic. If you were on the not receiving end of the rail rifles, and then if you were playing into Pathfinders, they could be very oppressive, and they were a lot of fun. I got a really good kind of system going with them, and coming into this new edition, like you said, they kind of got nerfed into the ground. They didn't have a lot of tricks. They could keep them competitive. They were just struggling a lot, and just like you don't really have melee, and you only have shooting as an option. So to hit on fours was just not going to cut it, even with a single reroll. I mean, threes doesn't even feel that good anymore. I don't know about you, but threes feel worse to me this edition than last edition. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden, three hitting on three ups is awful by comparison. So it's still better than fours. They're playable now, but it's just yeah. The whole ride has been interesting. But getting back on the team, it's been good. They feel like they have play now with this most recent data slate. The ability to hit on threes with just two marker lights is incredible, and like having the added bonus of not giving your opponents cover or anything like that, and having the reroll as well with just two marker lights is just a really strong combination.
Yeah, they kind of stack up a lot of rules on one guy when they take the shot, which I've actually kind of noticed is a bit of a trend this edition for shooting teams. I don't know if it's just the shooting teams I've been paying attention to, but it feels like all the, I guess, quote unquote, successful shooting teams that I've been seeing lately are like, the way that they're successful is they'll hit you with like four keywords on their gun, and that will usually be enough. Maybe it's because we have elites running around and it feels like you just need to throw the kitchen sink at them in order to actually do damage. But I mean, I guess to segue a little bit, I mean, how have you gotten the chance to play Pathfinders into elites, the new Pathfinders?
Yeah, actually, in that tournament where you and I played, I ended up playing into the Plague Marines in the last round there. and I managed to do quite well. I don't know that it was an accurate representation because we were playing on kind of more of a narrative type board that was just kind of silly. It wasn't one of the usual competitive setups, but just seeing the damage potential that you can throw out at elites and having that that ability to out activate them by having those 12 operatives was just it feels very strong. It still feels strong like it was last edition with having that activation advantage and being able to set up enough marker lights and shoot with your powerhouses, whether it be your rail rifles or your ions, and just get that damage in almost guaranteed because there's just not much that the elites can do to kind of outmaneuver you in terms of like being able to play the crit op and still avoid you. It's not really a possibility. So
Yeah, that's intriguing to hear. I mean, just the fact that they have a solid matchup from what it sounds like into elites is pretty promising. I think a team can kind of get by just by being good against elites on its own. I feel just there's with the prevalence of how many Marine teams are running around and not just how many of them there are, but how popular they are. I guess it feels like when you go to a tournament, if like half of your games are decent odds to be against elites of some flavor. So I mean, what about the other matchups? I guess because if they're doing okay into elites, how do they feel into like the elf teams and the melee teams? I guess.
like the other matchups, it's the team kind of feels a little bit like a house of cards just because of the fact that you're relying entirely on shooting. There's not really a melee threat that you can use even reliably to finish off enemies that are on one or even two wounds. Um, it's so that's tough, but so I mean, if things don't go your way, it kind of all falls apart. But if things are going really well, it's kind of beautiful. I'd say the other matchups that kind of feel good, not that elites necessarily feel good, they just feel winnable, provided you're able to get key targets off. But I would say I had a good time into elves at that tournament. The fact that all of your dorks and everyone else are hitting on threes now and are able to deal minimum four damage makes them feel very solid into anything eight wounds or less. So that being elves, and elves having a hard time dealing with horde teams where they just don't have the activations to kind of keep up with the amount of killing that needs to be done. So you still have that activation advantage, but they're a little bit squishier than elites, and they're just more reliable to kill as a result from my side of things. So I felt very good into the Corsair matchup. I didn't think I would, but you do have some tricks. You do even now with the update and with this edition have some tricks into melee combat. If you can set yourself up right with that point blank fusillade ploy. So, I mean, I felt very good into elves, very confident into elves.
Yeah, and the point blank fusillade that just received a buff, correct? So I mean, it lets you. It's a retaliating ploy. Do you want to go over that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll go over for those that don't know what that ploy is. It's it's the fact that you're able to kind of use any sort of ranged weapon, excluding anything that has the word grenade in it, as a melee weapon for that combat. So you get the attacks, you get the better to hit because Tau melee is hitting on fives, so most of your weapons are at least hitting on fours. Um, and you can use that to kind of deal a little bit more damage on your way out, or if an enemy is on, let's say, four wounds or five wounds, even, you can potentially get a lucky roll in and actually kill the person before they're able to kind of finish off your Tau. So even the most injured, kind of standard melee fighter from other teams gets a little bit more nervous. And the update specifically made it so that you now get to fight first when you're retaliating with it with your Pathfinders, provided they're using a pulse weapon. So no rail rifles, no ions. So it does mitigate that a little bit, but it does make your normal troopers a little bit better and a little more threatening, as well as if they want to come charge your grenadier has a chance to at least fight back, fight first, do some damage, maybe come out and then still throw some more grenades. So
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I mean, it definitely it's pretty terrifying. I guess I can imagine for elves and like mid range teams with 8 wounds, because it puts you in the situation where you're if you charge and fight, you might just die on the charge because they'll pay a CP and fight first with 4/5. It's a little dicey because you're hitting on fours, but just enough even to like throw a little doubt in the math. I think is scary, and so the alternative being, well, I guess I'll have to shoot the Pathfinders, and then you kind of you sort of narrow them into a shootout, which is kind of a good spot to be if you're playing Tau, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I'm having a great time if you want to trade blows with me. I mean, I'm probably falling away even while you're shooting at me with 5 up saves and 7 wounds on most of my operatives, but there's ways of counter punching when you're shooting into me, right? Um, so I think we definitely prefer the shootout, and it's just there's some weird plays you can do too. I don't know if you're aware of this because we didn't play on Into the Dark, but the weirdest thing is that I managed to pull off in that tournament was being able to use point blank fusillade on my own turn with my own activation. Because if you are the very niche scenario is that if you're on ITD and you run up to a door, you open that door, you're in melee range. And instead of shooting you, that person wants to fight you because they've been on guard behind that door. Um, and they decide to fight. You're technically retaliating in your own turn. So you do get to use the point blank fusillade because it is a retaliation. They are fighting. So you get to shoot at them. And into elves, that's very scary. So I threw a guy, that was already hitting on threes into an elf. You now have 4 dice on threes, 4/5 damage. You roll 3 hits, you're guaranteed to kill that elf, even though he's reacting into you. So it just makes certain scenarios feel very weird because now not only are you killing someone in their own turn, but you're making guard almost more of a liability than it already is because there's already that high risk trade off by having to have a guy on engage. But now it's either he reacts to you by fighting you or leaves himself open for the rest of your activation to go through or whatever else you have planned, right?
Yeah, and I mean that's particularly funny into teams where like a Felgor or a Goremongers where I guess they're shoot. Well, I guess Goremongers is a bad example because of wrist chains, but like teams like Felgor or Chaos Cult where if they're on guard, their shooting option is very. It's like an auto pistol most of the time. So they're going to want to fight with the guard, and then all of a sudden you're retaliating, so you can pay a CP and fight first. That's pretty funny. I do remember you kind of. I think I vaguely recall you telling me about this play when we were at the Torchlight tournament. But it's kind of funny to hear it laid out like that.
It's bizarre. It was one of those things where as soon as I read it, I was like, wow, I can actually do this on ITD, and I don't know if it wasn't intended to be able to let you do that, but it just feels like you're able to still be offensive. And because you haven't triggered the fight, if you kill that guy, you're now able to then continue on and kill something else with a shoot if you so choose.
Yeah,
And
that's a good point because you're not using your own action, so you can kind of get two
exactly.
shots off. Oh wow.
Yeah, very, very weird, but works wonderfully. And yeah, it also works. If you look at the phrasing on Bonded, it does give you the the accurate one in Bonded as well. So if you're getting charged and you need to, let's say this guy has 4 wounds left, you can guarantee that you'll kill that guy before he's able to two-tap you in melee by using that point-blank fusillade because you'll have that accurate one, and then the other 3 dice you're throwing, chances are you're probably rolling another hit. So unless they have a double parry, even hitting on fours, you're pretty good at counterpunching a little bit. And 4 damage is nothing to scoff at. That's quite the change on maths in shooting and combat, right? So
Yeah, I mean, even if it just means that they're forced to parry, I mean, I think that the high damage is a pretty big threat. So I mean, I guess a lot of people probably are not at all familiar with Pathfinders this edition, and so
mhm.
they see the buffs and they probably imagine, oh, it's just like Pathfinders from before. It's going to be the same experience. But I had the pleasure of playing against you and seeing the Pathfinders of new myself, and let me tell you, listeners, they're very weird. There's a lot of jank there. So, I mean, Voyan, you have seem to have a pretty good grasp on a lot of it. So, why don't you tell us some of like your favorite like Pathfinder jank and cheese, the weird stuff that they're doing that kind of keeps them competitive, because it's not straightforward like last edition, I would say.
So I was told, I'll give you guys one play example that I was told to keep under my hat by James, who we play with, or who's now getting back into Kill Team, who's our wonderful tournament host here in KW, Ontario at Chimera Gaming. And he's getting back into it, and we were playing, and he told me to kind of keep it under my hat here and kind of play it close to the vest. But then he announced it on Discord the other day, so I don't really know, some mixed messages there. But we were playing what is it? It's Extraction. In particular, that one was. So I ended up winning initiative. I have a guy on the center point, um, and he can also make it to another point. The one of the jankiest tricks that you can do in that particular situation is have yourself spend on a worthy cause, which is at the start of the firefight ploy, or use this firefight ploy at the start of the firefight phase. One of your Pathfinder operatives that's not a drone gets to just do a free mission action. So you do the extraction on one, and then so I did the middle one, immediately ran to his home one on my first object or first activation, popped that one, and you've got 3 points secured automatically because that first one gets you 1 VP, the second one gets you that 2, and now you're fighting over your own home objective. So it's weird because Pathfinders used to play almost defensively, but now there's a reward for being aggressive and getting in your opponent's face as soon as you can. So it's a weird situation, and that particular play is just one of the many weird things you can do. The other one that I like a lot is the threat range that you have with your drones. Drones, if you're taking drone controller, get that +2 on their movement because they now have to climb stuff. They don't have flying anymore, so they're an 8-inch base move with that drone controller. So huge movement, but what's really weird is the wording on the drone controller, where you're getting them to do movement shenanigans or things like that. Where if you're telling them to move with his remote pilot ability, where he gets to just tell any drone anywhere, hey, you do this one free action. It just can't move more than 2 inches, but it's just for that action that they can't move more than 2. So it's not like the limitation on counteract where you can only move a total of 2 inches, even if you were, say, Angels of Death and could use kind of that ability to double move. You would still be stuck to 2 inches total. This one would give you 2 inches plus another 2 inches. So if you told a drone to move dash, you now have an additional 4 inches. If you boost APL on your gun drone, you now have a dash added to that. So you have an 11-inch threat range of just pure movement, plus the 4 inches that you would get from your drone controller, giving you 15 inches of just straight movement with a gun that has ceaseless built in. So there's not a lot that can hide from you on even turn 1. With that, you can also have your recon drone turn 1 have a 12-inch move and still be able to shoot. Where, because it's now limited to reposition only on the shooting, it still has the ability to move 8 inches, have that drone controller have it given you either 4 inches earlier or later, and now you've got that 12 inches up the board. And you're still able to shoot with a 5 dice attack, potentially a 4 dice torrent. Lot of weird cheese in there. And then you still have your recon sweep as well from last edition and this edition, where you can potentially give yourself 3 inches extra of movement. So there's a ton of mobility on the team, and if you declare Mont Cut turn 1, you have that extra inch. So there's a lot of weird spots where you're adding movement. And you want to get close to your opponent, but you don't at the same time. It's just a weird team right now, but it feels good when you get these weird shots off. And throwing the drones into enemy lines isn't necessarily the worst thing either, because now you have, if you haven't used the movement bonus, if I'll call it, from your drone controller, you can have your drone controller tell your drones to shoot again. So your drone controller can effectively shoot twice on his turn by shooting through the gun drone and the recon drone.
Yeah, and I mean, you can be in a situation where like your recon and gun drone are on engage, and the turn just started, and like maybe they both have shots, and your first activation, you could just have your drone controller just order them both to shoot, and all of a sudden it's like you have double kill potential. That's kind of crazy. One thing that popped into my head when you were talking about worthy cause,
Hmm.
uh, on ITD, can you worthy cause to open a door?
I mean, I believe doors are still considered mission actions, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The only restriction being that, well, yeah, actually, it is just a mission action. I thought it used to be that you had to be on a point for the old one, but see, even I'm still mixing up the
Yeah.
rules from last edition. But yeah, no, all it is just anything that's not a drone can immediately perform one free mission action.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So I mean, that could you could kind of get some pseudo 3 AP shenanigans there with like turn 2 initiative, like popping a door open. Um, yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely a lot. And then I also wanted to ask you to kind of touch on the Gravenhib drone, because I think a lot of but when we played our game, I thought I understood how the Gravenhib drone worked before our game, and then we started playing, and I realized, oh wow, this is way better than I thought. So why don't you talk to us a little bit about the new nanomine, so to speak, the Gravenhib drone?
Oh, it's so silly. I don't understand. Like considering the nerfs that have happened, as you well know from being a higher tech player to the nanomine, I don't really know why they've kept this the way that it is. I mean, I kind of do because again, Pathfinders really only have shooting. You don't really have melee, but man, does it give them some legs. Um, the grav inhibitor drone, for those of you that don't know, is a drone that's going to have this 6-inch aura, which again, 6-inch auras were also nerfed on higher attack. Um, but 6-inch aura that does require visibility, but it is still 6-inch aura, and I mean the whole dome of the drone is the part that you're drawing visibility from, and it's on a flight stand, so chances are you probably are going to see whatever you're doing, like whatever's trying to move in. But as soon as they move in that 6-inch aura, it's not like the nanomine where it has to be they're already in it when they start doing things. It's as soon as you enter that, you lose 2 to your movement. This is not only from when you're doing a reposition, this is also from a dash to a minimum of 2. And it does tell you that it's not changed to move stat. So it does appear that this is going to stack with injury. This does, it's just kind of bonkers because injury is already going to take away that 2, dropping you to what, minimum 4 as per rules. And then the grav drone says, no, 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 you're actually going to move minimum 2. So you're going to move 4 inches total if you're injured and trying to move dash, which is just so infuriating for a lot of people. Additionally, what a lot of people forget to read, including myself when I was playing into Chaos Cults, uh, if someone's within that 6-inch aura, their hit stat of their melee weapons is worsened by 1, which does level the playing field a lot and makes that point blank fusillade even better. Um, just because now you're usually both hitting on 4s, and if the other person's hitting on 4s, they're hitting on 5s, and that stat change is also cumulative with injury. So something hits on 3s normally, it can be hitting on 5s, which is just wild to think of like a space marine hitting on 5s with their chainsword. And so now you have equivalent melee profiles, almost, well, not quite, but with your attack dice number. But you're both hitting on 5s. You're hitting as bad as a Tau Pathfinder, which is
Oh yeah, I mean,
makes me feel so good.
if you've got like an injured like Gellerpox Hulk, he's what is he like like a 3 inch charge with hitting on 6s on a lot of them. Like,
Yeah.
what in the world? So I mean, that model, would you say it's in play against every team, or are there teams where you're not taking it? Like, how are you approaching it right now?
You know what? I've been taking it into every team because there's not much else I would take in lieu of it. There are other options that could be considered nicer, but I find that into the melee teams, it's an auto take. You must take it. The fact that you're reducing that likelihood of them hitting is huge, and just limiting their movement because a lot of melee teams need to stage properly, and if you can prevent them from getting to certain spots, um, very big. I mean, it is a pain for Felgor to deal with, even with that plus 1 inch move that they're so used to doing and their dashes that they're doing. I mean, you're still doing a dash when they call the hunt. That's still going to be limited to 2 inches, no longer three. And that +1 inch is now going to just make it feel like -1 instead of -2. Um, so there, it makes those teams play a little bit more honest. It does give you a little bit more opportunities to counterpunch with Pathfinders into non-melee teams. I still think it's worth it to take for exactly that you get some better board control. It's an annoyance. So it's either does your opponent waste an activation by going and killing this thing that may not be doing anything at all, or do you have it? Do you have them just suffer and have to deal with this? And again, 6-inch aura plus the base size, you're looking at something that's more than 12 inches in diameter on the board. That's a massive, massive range of just saying, you know what, you don't get to move as well and you don't get to hit as well. Come deal with me. And to top it off, I'm a 4-up save instead of a 5, so a little bit harder to deal with.
Yeah, and I mean, on some, it doesn't require visibility either to slow. They just need to be within 6, and
The
so.
slow does they both do require visibility. It's not as good as the nano mine in
Oh,
that
okay.
sense where it kind of goes through walls. It is still visible, but
It's a bit
again,
tall, I guess. It's a drone.
yeah, but I mean it's tall because of the flight stand, and you're drawing from every part of the disc. It's not a single like small head that you're drawing. Like it's that whole hull, right, where you're checking to see, okay, do I see anything? Um, which chances are you probably do, unless they're behind a wall, you're
Yeah.
gonna see them. So it does give you some unique plays where you're able to kind of post up on advantage and not have people charge you. I was playing into Chaos Cults and was able to position Pathfinders on the edge of buildings so their base couldn't cross over me to climb up, and they couldn't get around me with the drone being there. So they were just stuck on the ground, not being able to hit me.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's pretty
So it does
crazy.
give you some safety. Yeah.
Huh.
And he's also still a valid like action monkey because your drone controller still lets him do things. So while drones normally cannot do mission actions, drone controller just tells him, "Hey, you do a mission action," and now he's popping objectives for you. He can go straight into the mid board, and if you do want to sacrifice him and throw him out there, they've just thrown something, a model that is either worthwhile or could have been doing something else and is now in an open position where you're able to then return fire as Pathfinders. So
Yeah, it's pretty wild. I mean, and with an 8-inch move too, they're just so fast, and they can kind of get where they need to be. I think in general, Pathfinders feel like a pretty fast team. Um,
yes,
yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting. So, I mean, I guess we talked a little about some of the stuff they can do on ITD. You played at least one game, I know, on ITD at the tournament. Um, I know last edition there was like a constant debate over whether the team was like any good on ITD or whether they were just good on Open. How do they feel on Into the Dark right now?
I kind of like them better this edition on Into the Dark. I know that's going to be a very spicy, very controversial
Yeah.
statement to say that a ranged team feels better, but um, a lot of ITD, I know it's been said by in our discussions, off of the podcast and in amongst our circles, where ITD seems to feel more like an open board and Volcus feels way more condensed, just with the sheer amount of heavy that it has. There's more opportunity for flexibility on Volcus. So you can move around a lot more, which makes a lot of the heavy more effective, in my opinion. Where um, ITD, you're funneled. Pathfinders can play on that a little bit. The other thing being that we get Seek Light on 4 marker lights. So with the restriction to a lot of the equipment, like the heavy barricade not being able to be more than 4 inches, if the objective is not on like within that 4 inch range of drop zones, you can't put a heavy item to hide behind. So contesting a lot of objectives requires you to be on light cover, and that light cover doesn't do much for you. Even if you have smokes, you can't even give yourself obscuring. You can't be obscured because once we hit level 3, we ignore obscuring. So you've got somebody that's able to be targeted in light cover reliably, and we have more activations than you. So if you just don't go on the objective, you're just not going to get it. So we're just waiting for you to get on the point, hit you with enough marker lights, and then start shooting you. And really, if you have 1 marker light already, we can guarantee hitting you at 4 because we can high intensity marker light you to put you to 3, and then use our equipment for the, I believe it's the target analysis um, that then gives you the treating you as 1 higher. So even though you're only on 3 marker lights, you're treated as 4. You're getting shot in that light cover, and you're not even getting to retain cover dice because of the saturate from level 1. So there's a lot of keywords that are overlapping to make those shots quality shots, and there's just nowhere for you to hide. So I really think that ITD plays a lot better. There's a lot of sneaky shenanigans you can do with that point blank fusillade. You have the ability to do free mission actions, so you're opening or closing doors, whether you want to be aggressive or defensive. Because I can push up the board, end my last engagement or last activation on engage, and then pop worthy cause to close that door. So I'm engaged, but you're not able to shoot back at me, and you now have to come towards me to open that door again, or wait for me to reopen it and then shoot you again.
Yeah, I didn't even think about. I mean, we just talked about using worthy cause to open a door to get a shot, but I didn't even think about losing initiative and then using worthy cause to slam the door shut to mess up with your opponent's plans. That is really interesting. It seems like they have pretty dynamic ways to mess with your opponent's I guess tempo a little bit, because they might have a play set up and then all of a sudden Pathfinders are like, no, actually it's gonna take a little longer for you to do that thing that you wanted to do. I really like the ways that they can interact. It's a different feeling, and I'd like to get your take on this, because to me, I look at Deathcore and some of the other shooty teams, for example, and the shooty hordes feel kind of samey to me, but Pathfinders feel like, when I look at their rules and I see them on the table, and I like seeing you play them, they feel different and they feel a little bit weird, and I think that it's an interesting flavor to see right now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree. Like, I think they have their own feeling, just because they're not just okay. It's no longer just stack rerolls and make sure you get quality shots and that's it. There's ways to kind of play into objective play. The weirdest thing that I found success with at times during that tournament was not just running kind of kill confirmed or things like that, because you're trying to wipe your opponent off the board. But if you know you're not going to be able to do that, you can actually run infiltrate. Your drones having the ridiculous movement that they have can then, using your drone controller, tell him, hey, you're going to surveil that, or you're using surveillance out of infiltrate, sorry. And you're telling them to surveil stuff in your opponent's backline. They have an 8-inch move, they can dash, so really they have 11 inches of movement. And your opponent, again, then has to decide, do I waste time going after this drone, or do I continue to try and play the objective? So there's ways of kind of mitigating point losses. And just, yeah, there's so many weird things that they do. One of their equipment that I didn't use much, but I have had success with, is their photon grenade, which is basically like a better stun, in my opinion. It's, instead of doing APL modifications, you're now subtracting 2 inches from movement, and that opponent can no longer use dash actions. It's only something that can be used on a valid target. So if you're going to shoot them, or you would be able to shoot them, you can do this. I only really like to use it if it's kind of I don't want to take the shot at the moment, or I've already had the shot and I have enough APL left over to then throw a photon grenade at these guys. Because on a 3-up, it's a decent chance, and that subtracting 2 inches from move and not being able to dash really cripples the movement. If you're then throwing the grav inhibitor drone in the way that you're limiting that operative to moving 2 inches anywhere.
Is there a range on the photon grenade?
No.
Okay, because I remember last edition that it was like that, and I remember wondering, like, why is this grenade? You throw it across the. You've got like these quarterbacks on the Pathfinder team just whipping their grenade, all the way across the board. That's pretty crazy.
I mean, technically, I'm pretty sure lore-wise, it comes out of the pulse carbine. They're supposed to have like a little underslung launcher. Okay. But then you do have these weird models that have the disc shapes as well. So I'm not really sure. they kind of have both, but it would make sense because they're saying, specifically this edition, it's saying that only operatives that can do the marker light action have access to photon grenades. So
Okay.
it sounds like they're shooting it under barrel.
Interesting. Very interesting. Um, but yeah, I mean, I guess yeah. In our game, I remember. I believe you took surveillance, right?
Yes, yeah. I just didn't think that I had the firepower to take out that many Necrons, and they're coming back.
Yeah.
You're basically stopping people from playing the kill op. So me not being able to play the kill op and not reliably be able to get kill confirmed and stay alive to get kill confirmed.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'm going to try and mitigate this. I think I managed to score 3 or 4 points
I think you got
on
4 on
that.
it for sure.
Yeah.
And
So
you probably would have been able to get more. I know we got rushed at on the last turn. You might have been able to get another surveillance. I don't know, it's possible, but it feels like they're probably one of the better teams for it, just with the potential with the drone controller, like just telling a guy to like move into the territory and then surveil. It's a little bit similar to Chaos Cult. Kind of has a thing like that where the leader, the demagogue, will command a guy to move in to like move, do like a 2-inch move or maybe a 3-inch move, and then you can use that guy to then surveil. I think, but yeah, I mean stuff like that. I think makes surveillance click a little bit. And I've been playing a lot of Jaegers lately, so
mhm.
I've been running surveillance a lot and. Just trying to figure out the ways to make that tech up work is kind of fun. But obviously, Pathfinders do have access to recon. So, in your other games, were you taking recon tech ops, or were you kind of going back and forth?
So the way I've played Pathfinder's last edition was kill everything and then do missions like along the way. It's kind of how I play Goremongers and how I imagine a lot of Goremongers play, this edition, but I kind of follow the same thing with these guys. You just aren't going to win a war of attrition, so you need to strike hard, strike fast. It's kind of more of an elf play style where you're running up the board, you're getting the hits in that you need to get in, and then hopefully turning the tide your way, and then doing the mission actions afterwards. So if I can do kill confirmed, I'm going to do kill confirmed. More often than not, just because again, it seems that this team really rewards the aggressive movement and aggressive playstyle and just having multiple threats. Um, so I found that in my games with plant beacons, it's not bad. The fact that the drones don't fly anymore means that your drone controller can tell people to, move and plant beacons with the drones, which is kind of handy as well if you're throwing them behind enemy lines and on your opponent's half. And your drones, like if you're sending, something that's not a high value one, like maybe your grav drone where it's just being an annoyance, but it can also do things by planting beacon. I mean, what is it? Recover items. I don't think you have the ability to sustain long enough, but it could be. I know that we've heard some great success coming from Goremongers playing recover item, where they're able to just move up the board, kill everything, and then come back and play recover item. You might be able to get away with that with Pathfinders, especially because you could have your drone controller tell your drones to pick up those items. So if you do have a drone that you've kept safe the entire game, or that it has enough movement left, even with its hit points reduced, then you're able to kind of make up for it in the end game. So it's something I still have to experiment with. The team is still quite fresh off of the update. There's still a lot of room to figure out weird strategies and weird synergies, but yeah, I think right now the two that I've felt the most comfortable with have to be confirmed kill and the surveillance.
Interesting.
So
Can I know that worthy cause. I feel like we keep coming back to this play. It lets you do mission actions. Can you do a pickup action with worthy cause?
it just says mission
Ah,
actions.
okay.
So yeah, unfortunately, I was thinking that too when I first was going through it. Kind of like, can I pick it up? Can this be kind of like the worth it
Yeah,
from I believe it's Hearthkin. So it would be nice if you could do a free mission action or pickup action.
that would
That
be
would be great.
crazy. Yeah, that'd be nuts because I was just imagining like the perfect storm of like you you worthy cause to pick up an item and then you win initiative and you have your drone controller tell a drone to pick up an item and then you've just like got all the items. Um, that would be wild, but doesn't sound like a possibility. Um, so I mean, yeah, you mentioned a little bit of goremongers. I did want to talk a little bit briefly about goremongers because
Sure.
before the Pathfinder bus, you're playing goremongers, which I mean, I can't think of a team more different than Pathfinders. Honestly, if I tried, how were you enjoying goremongers? What was that experience like?
You know what? They're such a fun team. I know a lot of people like let's start with the stuff that people hate about them. The chain lightning charges I love, but so for those that don't know, I don't know how many people don't know because this seems to be the most popular team out of the box, but the aspirants, if they kill something in melee combat, they're able to do that free 2-inch charge. Which I mean, if you're actually measuring things out, if you charge an operative, your opponent typically has to space out, I think, just over 6 inches away from each other. If you're to avoid that, because you can charge into a guy, be exactly 1 inch out, the size of your base plus that 2-inch free charge ending within an inch of another guy, um, it's almost 6 inches, right? So like it's a pretty big gap. Um, I feel like it's very strong. If horde teams are not careful, um, you can definitely ruin someone's day. I remember playing Davey, one of our local guys, over here from the other guys, and he was playing novitiates, and he thought that he was setting up properly where I wouldn't be able to kind of charge into a few guys, and I managed to triple charge novitiate, so kill one novitiate, kill another one, and then heal up and just end up in combat with a flamer, and where the flamer can't do anything because they don't have the APL to return fire and start putting on the heat, if you will. Um, so I mean that's a very strong ability. I love it. It rewards the aggression. I think if you were to balance it, maybe do it once per activation instead of just doing it as many times as you can, because the fact that I can double fight and effectively have 3 charges in a turn is just crazy. Like feels way stronger than any 4 APL operative ever
Yeah,
did.
you can definitely get a lot of actions through with an aspirant on the perfect turn that you get, and it's like I remember the last time I played them, I had an activation where I had one initiative and I used the ploy to charge 3 inches, and then I fought with the aspirant, got a kill, did the free charge, used the blood to get a free fight, and killed another guy, and then charged again. And I was like, I just did like 5 actions, and I've only spent 1 AP.
Yeah,
Like I've
like
still
it's
got an action left. It's
right, and
nuts.
then you're in a really good position up the board. If you still have an action left after that without even having used your charge like you did, you now have the ability to throw a grenade if you've taken them, or shoot with your wrist chains,
Yeah,
right? So if you like, there's a lot of play. They have a lot of tricks. Um, Everyone's favorite ability from the Sangovite is, of course, the healing. Uh, I don't think it's as busted as people are saying. I do see the frustration with it, but the fact that it's, I think it's been well thought out. And the reason I say that before people crucify me for this, um, is that, you go to a minimum 2 when you're getting shot. The 2d3, the maximum you're going to get from that is 6. You're still at 8 max then. So you're able to still be shot down. So I think it's there. It definitely messes with the melee profile, so I do get that, and I do appreciate why the melee teams are quite frustrated with this team. But I mean, Goremongers only really have melee. They have one shooter that's okay and one that's a total toss up. I'm of course referring to the Impaler as the total toss up in my
yeah,
opinion, just because you don't get rerolls. Yeah, it's 4 or 5 damage. It sounds really good. It looks really good on paper, but this goes back to what I was talking about, where hitting on threes just doesn't feel good this edition.
yeah. Especially
Um,
without rerolls.
yeah, it's just so if you flub that roll or your opponent spikes their defense saves, which every time I play someone that has a 3-up save, they get all of their saves, and even though I'm shooting on the same requirements, I'm missing 3 out of 4 dice. So
Yeah,
it's
it's an interesting like thing to bring up because I'm planning on at some point picking up Goremongers.
Mhm.
Maybe after this weekend, well, I'll probably play some more higher tech and then move back to not move back, but move to Goremongers because they just feel like a good progression for me to play.
Mhm.
And my current theory, I haven't played a lot with the team, but I think the Impaler is somebody for me that I only want to bring out against 5-up saves.
Yeah.
And otherwise, I mean, the aspirant, not only is he getting the charge ability, but he's got 4-5 melee, whereas the Impaler has 3-4 melee,
Yeah.
and it kind of opens up the door for like a little bit more punch in melee, and you don't end up relying on this kind of just 4 dice on 3 shooting attack, because 4 dice on 3s in melee is a lot better than 4 dice on 3s in shooting, because in
Yes.
melee you don't have to punch through saves. Like you can get 2 hits and that might be enough. Whereas you only like you can go into melee with 4 attacks and know that as long as you get 3 hits, so you don't even need a crit, you're gonna get the kill sometimes, depending on what you're fighting. Whereas with shooting, you can get 4 hits and you might only do 4 damage because your opponent might just spike on their saves. So there's a lot of variance with shooting that I think is not
Absolutely.
present with melee. And at the end of the day, if you really need to shoot, your aspirant can wrist chain it up. He can get close and shoot with the wrist chains if he needs to. Um, but I'm very excited about that team. I know you ended up going. I think it was 5-1 at the Chimera GT.
Yes. Or was it five? No, 4-2 actually, because I lost to George and I lost to Max.
You lost to first and second place. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I ended up going to top table somehow with a 4-1, and then somehow just well, not somehow. Max is an excellent player, and I don't know how to read rules. So I lost at the top table, but I mean it's I've been having fun this edition with Goremongers. Um, they're fun. They get lots of you get to do a lot of things, and you have constant threat range. Melee is I see the error of my ways with playing Pathfinders last edition. It's just melee is more fun,
it
and
is. It's really fun.
right, like the automatic damage that you're doing is like I get it. You're dealing guaranteed damage, right? Provided you're getting hits, but you're dealing guaranteed damage, just like you said. You're not punching through saves, but the trade-off is that it's a lot riskier, not only with positioning usually, but also with the fact that you're receiving damage. Whereas with shooting, you fail to shoot, you're not taking immediate damage back, right? You flub the roll, you get 0 hits, you're not dead, right?
Yeah.
Um, or at least not immediately. But I don't know. The Impaler has some play. I think I agree with you. I think I would still take it into some 4-ups. I like it into elves, just because the 4-up save is kind of dicey. 3-ups I should be doing a little bit better, but it's kind of fun to be able to do some weird shenanigans like shoot, pull a guy, and then charge so you can reach an objective. Um, boost your APL. Now you're contesting an objective with 3 APL on it. Um, you can do a few weird things with it, or get guys out of position, um, or just make your life easier by bringing them close and then killing them. So you're getting blood tokens, or sorry,
Yeah.
the filling
It's
your fortune.
always weird to me looking at the Impaler choices because in theory, if you're able, because it's an 8-inch range gun, so if you're able to shoot them, there's a good chance in a lot of scenarios they're already in charge range. So I almost wish that the Impaler had 12-inch range, or even like a 10-inch range, so that
I, Go ahead.
go. I was gonna say just so that it opens the opportunities sometimes to pull a guy into your charge range that wasn't outside of like the situations where you have to climb or something. Um, but I if they not that they need a buff. I don't think Coremongers need a buff. But if there ever comes a day where that happens, I'd like to see that. I think that would be an interesting design choice.
Right. I could see that. I could also see, and this is probably going to get a lot of hate, but I would love to see something like the Gore tank rule where you're getting rerolls, where if you're at a half tank, you get balanced, at full tank, you get relentless. I'd like to see that be applied just to the Impaler shooting. Um, because, the he doesn't necessarily have to have relentless. Maybe he gets ceaseless at full tank or something like that. But just giving him at least balanced. Um, just because like you say, the 4-on-3s is not reliable. I don't think having one guy that's 4 dice doing 4 or 5 damage is going to break anything on that team. Um, it's I don't know. It's
I think
because
you're right.
he would get more utility, right? It's just yeah.
So, Voyan, out of curiosity, I mean, now that your Pathfinders are like kind of back from the dead, I know they're like your first love, and they don't have that much time left before rotation. Um, is your plan now? Are you going to keep playing Pathfinders for a bit? Or are you looking back to Goremongers? I mean, what are you thinking right now?
Well, the long term goal is we're gonna see how NIDs are gonna look
Oh, there you
when
go.
they drop.
Are you a Nids
Um,
guy?
you know what? I've my first introduction to Warhammer ever was playing at a GW store with the old school flock terrain, and back when Necrons had like the acrylic rods, um, like those green acrylic rods in
Yeah.
there, right? Though that was like my first intro. I think that was like sixth or seventh, maybe earlier, and they like the table was set up. It was Space Marines that had crashed on a planet, and you were trying to escape some ravenous Tyranid hordes that were coming towards you, and that was just the best memory ever. Like trying to hold back this horde of aliens coming at you that I got to play with these lovely guys at GW, like this work, Games Workshop store, and it's just kind of solidified the love of this game with that memory. So it would be nice to kind of go back to one of the OG teams I got to play. I've never. I love my Blood Angels, but I mean they're just the most fun alien trope ever. Like it's just all the best parts of a sci-fi alien that you want. So I would love to see the first 5-man team be really cool and really fun to play. And how fun is it that we're seeing the faction that's known for being like this unstoppable horde be the smallest team in the game.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
so
everybody kind of looks at Tyranids as like a horde. I think that was everybody's vision of Tyranids for a kill team coming out was like a horde or something. But 5-man Raveners is pretty sweet.
yeah,
Um,
so
and I think everybody kind of has that first experience of seeing 40k, and like having that connection. Because I mean, just thinking about it, my first ever exposure to 40k was, I don't know if you remember the Dawn of War games.
oh, of course.
Yeah. So my first exposure to that was my buddy had bought Dawn of War. We were probably like must have been like 12 years old, and it was specifically I think it was Dark Crusade was the game, the
Hmm.
Necron game, the one where they introduced Necrons, and seeing that
Yes.
CGI intro with the monolith and the Necron warriors coming forward. And I have always kind of had like a draw to Necrons, and maybe that's the reason. I don't know.
I mean, nostalgia is pretty powerful. I mean, that's why we all play this game, right? Like as sweaty as these games get, and as much fun as I love to have with the competitive side, I am so jealous of the amazing talent that we see regularly of like these guys who are kit bashing stuff, modeling these amazing models, and just really bringing the game to life on the table. And at the end of the day, we're just a bunch of grown men playing with toys and throwing dice.
Yeah.
You're only so cool doing this game, so have fun with it, right? And it's just so I don't know. I love my Pathfinders for that exact reason. It's the nostalgia of being the first team for Kill Team. I got them when Chalnath dropped. They're a lot of fun. I was constantly saying, "Look what they did to my boy," when when this edition dropped. So it's nice to be able to have them be playable. They don't need to be oppressive like they were. They don't need to be as strong as Warp Coven was on release in this edition. I just want them to be fun, and I think that we've kind of hit that. There, you can win games. I only lost one game, and it was to you in that tournament. And I had only been playing them for 48 hours at that point, so they definitely have played. They have legs. They can go the distance, but it's just they're going to struggle into strong players and teams that are at least an A tier or higher. I think they can even on an off day with an A tier team you're going to be able to win, and you definitely can beat a B tier team like reliably with this
Oh
team
yeah.
if you're piloting them properly. So
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought higher tech was even in their heyday. I thought higher tech was good into Pathfinders. I think stylistically, it's always been a little bit of a mismatch. You got a bunch of shooty guys with 3-up saves and 8 activations. It's pretty solid. But yeah, I think we're coming up on time right now. So Voyan, thank you for joining us. Always happy to chat with you. I believe you're not going to be at CTC this weekend, correct?
I can't make it, unfortunately, but I hope to see you soon. And I hear that there's stuff happening, over at your place. You guys are going to run some tournaments. Maybe I'll see if I can come by. But yeah, it's been a pleasure being on here and being able to share what my opinions and my thoughts. And I appreciate your wanting to hear them. So
Yeah, I guess last thing, do you have any shout outs you want to make before we wrap up?
I appreciate the Great Lakes Kill Team community. I appreciate the Command Point guys as always. I love Chimera Gaming. You guys have been such a huge support in this whole fun hobby. Jason and James, and of course TJ, our owner over there. You guys have just been lovely. Andrew for constantly taking a beating from me in Kill Team and just being an absolute mensch about it. So yeah, and I just love this community. Thank you guys so much, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. To everybody else listening, as always, if you're not subscribed and you're enjoying the content, go ahead and subscribe. That's a huge benefit to us, and we really appreciate it. We're uploading podcasts / just regular content every Friday, so you can tune in on Fridays, listen to it on your lunch break before the weekend. And yeah, and if you're extra enjoying and you just want to support us, you can check out patreon.com/commandpoint. You can drop $1 a month if you want, just to show your support. But obviously no need to do that if you don't want to. Just hoping everybody enjoys the content and subscribes, and tune in next week, and we'll have some more fun conversations for you. So this is Shane and Voyan signing out.